In at 10, FNAF 3 ending. Which FNAF 3 ending is canon still isn't actually solidified. Most people assume it to be the good ending since it takes more work and we set the souls of the original 5 missing children free, but in reality we don't know which ending really happened in the main timeline. When asked about it in an interview with Daco, Scott Cawthon said that he wasn't going to answer it, since he knows how the community gets with things, and cited the argument over Mangle's gender as a reason why he wouldn't answer. But in my mind that would just be more of a reason to answer it, so that we would stop fighting over which ending is correct, because then we would have a definitive answer. You didn't give us a definitive gender for Mangle, did you? I don't know. But that's a theory for another day. There was also the common 2 eyes theory that aimed to explain that there were 2 souls inside of Golden Freddy, since Golden Freddy had 2 eyes lit in the bad ending of FNAF 3. However, this is also not true, since the character of Crying Child wasn't even introduced yet, and this was planned to be the final game of the series. So why would an animatronic suddenly have 2 souls inside of it in the last game? And the light in the other eye is just because it's bouncing off the inside of the helmet. That's how light works. Other animatronics in that scene also have some light in their other eyes. So basically everything about FNAF 3's ending is still a mystery. In at 9, Vanny's fate. Vanny's fate from one of the most recent endings is also a mystery when you look at it. In the canon ending to Security Breach, the one where we fight against William Afton in the form of Burn Trap, in that ending we actually don't see what happens to Vanny. While yes, Burn Trap might have been dealt with, we don't know if that releases Vanny or if she's still under his control. Plus, we don't know what she's doing while all of this was going down. When there's a canon ending, you expect the main antagonist of the game to be there. So when Freddy and Gregory are sitting on that hill chilling, what comes next for the series? This is a question that I genuinely don't have an answer to, and honestly that I couldn't have an answer to. There are so many possibilities now that it's practically impossible for me to guess, and actually I'm pretty sure that's the point. But what do you think? Do you think Vanny survived, or was she caught in the collapse of Roxy's Raceway among with potentially the rest of the Pizzaplex? Be sure you let me know your thought process and theories in the comments below or on my Instagram, okay? Because I'm genuinely curious. In at 8, possession rules. Possession in the FNAF universe is very interesting. However, it's not something that we fully understand yet. There are a couple things we know, like how agony is one of the most powerful emotions that stretches out further from the body than any other emotion, but we don't really know if agony, grabbing hold of something, and what we call possession are the same thing. We don't know if when you die, if it's your remaining agony, or if it's supposed to be your spirit grabbing on. We also don't really know any other rules, if there are any. We don't know if you need to be close to the thing that you're possessing, assuming that possession and agony are different, since if agony is what we are calling possession, then we would need to be around the thing that we're possessing. It reaches out further from the body than any other emotion, but it doesn't reach out like 5 miles, okay? And we know very little about the rules of possession just in general in the series. And you know what? That's probably going to stay that way. I mean, like, if we knew the rules, it would mean that the series would also be confined to those rules. But by never establishing them to begin with, the games can do whatever they want, and then we can't really question it since they never said that it couldn't happen. It's genius, but it's annoying. And it's 7, tally marks. The security logbook has a load of little things that we don't quite understand. One of which is the various tally marks that we find throughout the book. We find 5 on page 9, 10 on page 19, 14 on page 31, 5 on page 36, and another 5 on page 100. Nobody has really been able to determine what these are meant to mean. Some have theories that it's meant to spell out Crying Child's name and Evan, and then they had to stretch to find the N, but like nobody has really figured it out, okay? The word search doesn't have 100 spaces, alphanumeric ciphers only yield a group of letters, not a word, and nowhere else in the logbook is there something that really relates to these tallies. They're a seemingly totally arbitrary thing that has no impact on the story, but they have to mean something, right? They aren't just there for no reason. They have to be like some sort of answer or code, but nobody has been able to find anything concrete as far as I can tell as of yet. And if this isn't the case, again, excluding the whole Evan thing, because that's a stretch, let me know in the comments. But until I can find that, we're here with no explanation. The only thing that I can think of is maybe it represents the amount of victims that William took, since they seem to appear with like the appearance of a new character from a new game. So like the first 5 talking about a new animatronic, and then the next 10 are the first appearance of Balloon Boy in the book, but others appear around the puppet and stuff, so like I don't know. So maybe they're the amount of new victims, but yeah, I'm not sure. And at 6, the Stitch Wraith. The Stitch Wraith was a character introduced in the Fazbear Frights book epilogues, with each installment of the series giving you another chapter of his story. However, we still have yet to see why the character was introduced and if he will be included in future games. It's possible that this was another planned possible antagonist for whoever was taking over next. However, these books started releasing before Scott announced his retirement, from my memory at least. unless he was planning it beforehand. The Stitch Wraith is a mysterious figure wearing Phineas Taggart's black trench coat. It wears a white mask, later revealed to be the head of the Simon doll. The mask's features are drawn on with a thick black marker. It has 2 eyes, one of which is blackened, originally intended to resemble a black eye on Simon. It sports a toothy grin with a missing tooth, and something appears to be stuck between its front teeth. It also appears to have blood around its mouth, but it's actually meant to be pizza sauce. I doubt it. The rest of the body is an endoskeleton of unknown origin, and in its chest lies Fetch's battery, which was glowing red when it was first activated, but nothing like that seems to have been spotted in the games yet. So, what do you think? Will we see the Stitch Wraith on screen and not on pages anytime soon, or will he remain someone for the books? Halfway through into number 5, Client 46. Some believe Gregory to be the mysterious Client 46, able to be found in the retro CDs available at the end of the game using Roxy's eyes. However, others suggest that perhaps this Client 46 is Vanny, since Vanny is an alternate persona of Vanessa, and Vanessa is the only other client with retro CDs in the game. Client 46 doesn't talk, but is adept at hacking, something that at least before the game came out we associated with Vanny. But if Gregory is a robot, the hacking thing is easily explained away. And Vanessa is asked about her making a costume, whereas Client 46 is seen talking with someone in a bunny costume, or at the very least the costume itself, but the cameras when they are talking are glitching out, indicating that the bunny is Vanny, so it would be Vanessa inside the suit. There's also the fact that Vanessa leaves therapy in disc 12 or so, and then Client 46 doesn't leave until disc 16. I still think it's Gregory, but hey, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, right? Unless they share it in a YouTube video apparently, according to the comments. In at 4, Vanessa. Now we know that Vanessa is working the security guard job because William needed her at the Pizzaplex in a position of power, but she doesn't seem to know about this, and who is this higher up that needed her at the job so badly? Well, considering that Gregory is an excellent hacker and seemingly a robot as well, MatPat is under the impression that it was him who recommended her. But then again, how did she get the job when so many people didn't want her to have it? The hiring manager for the Pizzaplex commented on her lack of experience and how she didn't seem like she was up for the job, but then she gets it anyway? Like, does that mean that this employee was killed, or did someone just pull rank? And if they did pull rank, does that mean that it was actually someone at the company who's still working for Afton, or is Gregory just really this manipulative? Because like, at that point, yeah, I feel like if you're pulling rank, you have to be present, you know? You can't pull rank over an email. That doesn't seem like it would work. I mean, like, Gregory is certainly willing to kill without a moment's hesitation like we see in the Phaser Blast ending, but like, does that mean that he's done it before, or was he just desperate? He might be the one killing the therapists too. Getting close to the end, into number 3, Crying Child. Now the possibility of Gregory being a robot is high. There is a good chance that he's not just a mere mortal. However, there is also the possibility that Gregory is not only a robot, but a robot crying child, rebuilt by his father in an effort to correct his mistake, since he is the one who superpowered the jaw that killed his son. There are multiple similarities between the two characters as well, like the design choice of a 2-striped shirt with shorts, as well as the constant whining from Gregory, which could be a reference to the crying child, who's crying so much that it's literally his nickname. There's also the whole crying child and Big Brother Michael dynamic that we have between Gregory and Glamrock Freddy, not to mention the best ending screen where Gregory and Vanessa are eating ice cream, and Gregory has a Fredbear popsicle literally with a bite taken out of the head. I mean, like, that's as direct as this game gets, right? Aside from when Glamrock Freddy said Vanny's name is a combination of Vanessa and Bunny. That was also very direct. Thank you for that, Scott. Penultimately, in at number 2, Bonnie. At this point, it's pretty well known and thoroughly believed that Bonnie's disappearance from the Pizzaplex is Monty's fault, considering how his last known location was at Monty's Golf. However, while we're pretty sure it's him, all the evidence is really circumstantial, and with a series like FNAF, we can never really be sure of anything, lest we get surprised by a post-it note we missed that actually references the fact that Roxy and Bonnie were dating and Roxy got jealous. Something like that is honestly not unexpected. I firmly believe that there are at least a few curveballs that we have yet to find because they weren't added in the initial release, or they're planned to be released with the DLC. But currently, the mystery of Bonnie's disappearance is set on Monty being the one who dismantled him, possibly so that Afton could be transferred into his endoskeleton, but I'm still unsure about that theory, but like I said, the next theory should be about that. And finally, in at number 1, Vanny's ending. In the canon ending to the game, the one where we fight against William Afton in the form of Burn Trap, that ending, we don't see what happens to Vanny. Well, yes, Burn Trap might have been dealt with. We don't know if that releases Vanny or if she's still under his control. Plus, we don't know what she's doing while all this goes down. When there's a canon ending, like, you kind of expect the main antagonist of the game that you've actually seen a couple times throughout the game to be there, right? So when Freddy and Gregory are sitting on that hill chilling, What comes next? And like I said, this is a question that I genuinely don't have an answer for. There are so many possibilities that it's practically impossible to guess, and I think at this point we shouldn't even try, because whatever we guess, Scott or whoever comes next is just gonna be like, see that? Let's not do that, and let's do something completely different. We don't know what happened to Vanny. If we all guess that she's alive, she's gonna end up dead. If we all guess that she's dead, she's gonna end up alive. There's no winning here, because Scott is the ultimate internet troll, and even if he doesn't know who I am, he's still trolling me. And at 10, location, location, location. The location of the FNAF game has been quite the mystery over the years, but thanks to the paychecks we get at the end of the games, the area had been narrowed down to Utah, but that was as close as we got, since minimum wage doesn't vary from city to city. But thanks to the community of file divers who were finally able to share their findings on the Reddit pages, we got more specific thanks to the fast facts found in FNAF AR's files. Quote, despite the name, hurricanes are actually not the leading cause of death of children in Hurricane, Utah. This is just a more specific confirmation of the location the game takes place in. Like, I don't know if there's any significance behind the location or if maybe there's a deeper meaning for Scott, but nonetheless it was a mystery that was solved and confirmed to be canon, at least until Lumix or Scott confirms the fast facts as not canon, which hasn't happened yet as of this recording, so if it has happened when you're watching this, don't get mad at me. And at 9, bad ending. The FNAF 3 bad ending was honestly pretty cut and dry when it came out, not much mystery to it. But with the revelation that Golden Freddy might have been possessed by 2 spirits, some seem to think that this ending was hinting at it all along, but this wasn't the case, thanks to multiple factors actually. So the 2-eye theory states that in the FNAF 3 bad ending there are 2 eyes lit up in the head and the back, which we assume is Golden Freddy, to show that there are 2 souls. But this can't be the case. Firstly, it would be more difficult to tell that it was an animatronic head if only 1 eye was lit, since all we see are the eyes, and it could very well just be a reflection from the first light since it's so dark. Notice how Freddy also has a light coming out of his second eye. Secondly, Crying Child hasn't been introduced yet, not coming until the next game that wasn't even going to happen until the community was disappointed in the Springtrap jump scare, since this was supposed to be the end of the series. That's why we released the souls in the Happiest Day minigame. Also notice that only 1 person in that minigame wears a Golden Freddy mask. And according to the official Freddy Files Updated Edition book, quote, you'll see an image of animatronic heads each with a lit eye, meaning that Golden Freddy in the back only had 1 eye lit. I go into this more in a dedicated video linked up in the top right corner if you want to go check that out. And at 8, Happiest Day masks. FNAF 3's Happiest Day minigame was the final minigame required to get the good ending. The ending where the animatronics had no lights on and the spirits had been put to rest. But there was something out of place that we didn't really mention at the beginning because we didn't want to deal with it. But there are multiple characters wearing masks from animatronics that we had never seen before. But why and how? Where did these masks of alligators, pigs, hippos and elephants and more come from? Well, we now know that it's the mediocre Melodies crew introduced in FNAF 6, and the alligator ends up being Montgomery Gator from Security Breach, because while it is a green mask, no frog has a snout that long. Which makes me think, when does this Happiest Day minigame actually take place in the timeline? Because if all these animatronics existed at the same time, what? I guess when one mystery is solved, another appears. And at 7, Security Puppet. The security puppet was something that was quite the mystery for a few fans. If Charlotte was killed outside the restaurant, how was the puppet able to get possessed? Since we know that we typically have to be in the vicinity of the object that we're possessing. This was explained to us in the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6, where we see the puppet crawl out to Charlotte in the rain after William drives off. This was a simple yet much needed explanation, at least to me, since it was very confusing how the laws of what's actually possible seemingly changed with each individual. But with that simple scene we understood the whole story. How a loving father was scared for his daughter's safety, how she was in danger thanks to William, so in an effort to protect her, Henry developed a green wristband that had specific coding on it. This code released a signal that the puppet animatronic would prioritize in case anything happened. Then, while stuck outside, William struck, which set off the bracelet alerting the puppet, who in a last-ditch attempt crawled in the rain and merged with Charlotte. A sad but evidently required story. And at 6, Lefty. The Lefty animatronic really came out of nowhere in FNAF 6. It looked like just another version of Freddy, but with the help of a secret ending and some rare screens, we got a bigger picture quite quickly. In what is known as the Insanity ending, we listened to a recording of Henry where he explains how he regrets unknowingly helping William in his killing spree and how he wanted to make things right. As he's talking, however, we see blueprints of various animatronics and mechanisms throughout the series, each with explanations for how they do certain things. Within these blueprints, we also see Lefty, which in turn stands for lure, encapsulate, fuse, transport, and extract, and that it lures something by emitting the bracelet code 93401233. And thanks to the security puppet minigame and a rare screen, we can tell that Lefty was meant to lure the puppet and does so successfully, since we can see the puppet's arm inside the animatronic while Lefty is sitting in the alley. A nice little explanation for the mystery of where the puppet was during FNAF 6. Because, I mean, we didn't know. Halfway through number 5, Blood. One of the gimmicks of this book is that it's a survival book. Michael writes in it so we can survive working at Freddy's. However, this thing is covered in blood and everyone just ignores that. Us as the reader / new recipient ignore it. The company ignored it when they gave it to us, putting a simple sticky note on it saying, oh no, someone's already written in this, instead of giving us a fresh one. Like, what the hell? It's not our blood, it's not Michael's because he dies in FNAF 6, which also places this book in the timeline somewhere between FNAF 5 and 6, so between Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator, since he references things like casual bongos and exotic butters, but not Helpy or any newer animatronics. And since this book came out nearly a year after FNAF 6, it's good to know the timing, but that still doesn't explain why the damn book has more blood than Lil Nas X's freaking dope ass shoes. And at 4, Dreams. Dream a better dream. There is a whole page dedicated to asking us about our dreams, with faded text that asks us if we have dreams. And then Mike proceeds to draw none other than Nightmare. Literally how? It's impossible if he was actually the older brother for him to know what Fredbear looks like, since Crying Child saw it as a hallucination in the hospital and then died before possibly being able to tell anyone. Like, how is this still a thing? Why is this still a thing? This is the one detail that makes me sure of my Crying Child is Michael Afton theory. Michael must be a robot version of the Crying Child, or of Crying Child somewhere inside of it, because this wouldn't make sense otherwise. How can you explain Mike knowing what Nightmare looks like, but also him being the older brother? You can't. It's actually impossible unless he's a robot. That's why I'm sure. Getting close to the end in number 3, My Name. The book started as being the reveal for the name of Golden Freddy, Cassidy. Some believe that Cassidy was the one giving us faded text, but if she was possessing Golden Freddy, then how could she possess the book too? The other thing that the book keeps saying though is, what is your name, not just mine? Even if it was Cassidy, them asking for our name makes me think that we don't know our true name either. Take the crossword, the one that revealed Cassidy's name. Along the bottom row we see the phrase, what is your name? Not my name like we've seen on the gravestone and in other places, but your name, as in ours, the reader / Michael. That same crossword asks us, who are you? Not who am I, who are you? Us again as Michael. The page after shows us a mirror and asks what we see, again asking about us. And referencing the start of the book that says to take a minute for self-reflection, and the mirror scene from Sister Location when Michael has purple eyes. And on page 79 the phrase my name appears, but it has very red print instead of being faded like it was previously, making me think that it could have been Mike that wrote that in the first place. And at number 2, Spirits? One of the bigger theories going around is that the survival logbook is possessed by 2 spirits, one that writes in faded text and the other that changes things that appear on the pages. I don't think that this theory is true, but after MatPat talked about it, it blew up and a load of people take it as fact. And that's one of the issues I have. You don't take theories as fact. This idea came about after someone noticed that on nights 4 and 5 reviews, some text is altered to say things like, it was for me, I'm scared and I can't see, instead of the typical, existential dread meter. This theory is a good one. It provides answers and it seems to point to Crying Child being the other spirit. And this could explain why the other parts of the book are messed up like the page numbers, but other than that, it wouldn't really make sense, unless this book is literally an allegory for Golden Freddy. Finally, and at number 1, the party was for who? The issue I have with the 2 spirits theory, however, is that even after the Crying Child responds to Cassidy saying the party was for you, by saying the party was for me, Cassidy still says it again. Why would Cassidy say the party was for you after the Crying Child had already acknowledged that it was? It's almost like it wasn't meant for him to see. Coincidence? I think not. That's right, I said it again because I can. The party was for us. We are Michael, Michael is Crying Child, and I don't know why I'm yelling. In a 10 Springtrap. I believe we all know this story by now, okay? Everything was going well at first, they couldn't pin him down, and he was on his way to immortality. Once William discovered Remnant, however, he spiraled. He wanted to use it to fuel his life and make him truly immortal, so in an effort to study it further, William lures the possessed animatronics to a back room that they can't normally access and then uses it to dismantle them, planning to melt melt down their endoskeletons to make soul-infused metal. However, by doing this, he unknowingly releases the souls of the victims that he claimed so long ago. And seeing these victims causes William to panic. Understandably, I mean, they're freaking ghost kids and they're also the ghosts of kids that you killed. So, yeah, then this absolute animatronic genius, the technician that has made the suits, handles the suit maintenance, and explained to every employee the proper procedure for putting these spring-locked suits on, climbs into the spring Bonnie suit that he actually uses to kill, and then climbs inside in such a panic that he actually didn't notice the moisture in the room, the leaking ceiling, and, you know, literally everything else, probably also his sweat, which caused the spring locks that were active in this moment, since it was in suit mode, to fail. And I feel like that moment is one of the most confusing mysteries. Why did he do that? He knows better. If he can avoid the cops for that long, why did he think that this was all just gonna be fine? Dude. In and on Cassidy. Cassidy is the most mysterious victim in the missing children's incident. Okay, her name was hidden for years, only being revealed in the survival logbook and then confirmed in the FNAF movie script Scott talked about in a post on Reddit. That script though was ultimately scrapped. And honestly, we don't really know much about her. We don't know how she died, and there are plenty of theories that claim to have evidence of her being a springlock victim. Maybe William knew that would be an easier way than just, I don't know, a knife. I mean, after all, she does possess Golden Freddy, and some figure that he could be a springlock suit that had the guts removed, hence the slumped over nature in his FNAF 1 and 2 forms. However, if this was the case, and Cassidy's body was in that suit, wouldn't they have found it when they were gutting the animatronic? But maybe, then again, William was the one who gutted it, considering how he was the suit technician. For a suit technician though, he did miss a fatal flaw with the animatronics he literally designed, since he got in the suit when it was wet like we just talked about. But either way, Cassidy being a springlock victim could be true, but it's still a mystery. At least until Scott acknowledges the idea. Until then, it's just a theory, so don't go around saying that it's fact. It's a mystery. We don't know. In at 8, Kelsey. Kelsey is in essence the main antagonist of the Fazbear Frights story The New Kid from the 3rd Fazbear Frights book 135 AM. Kelsey had just moved to town and ends up becoming friends with the main protagonist, Devin. Devin ends up getting jealous of how much everyone loves Kelsey though, so he hatches a plan with his other friend to trap Kelsey in a springlock suit for a few hours. However, when they unleash their plan, the springlock suit fails and kills Kelsey. I mean, if you're going to trap him in a springlock suit, I mean, isn't that isn't that how you would have trapped him normally? I didn't think you really thought that plan through. But at least they thought it killed him. Since a week later, Devin returns to make sure that Kelsey is still in there, only to find a different body in the suit. He knows that it's someone else because the hair color is different. And then Devin gets stuck inside the suit because he reached his arm in and then he bleeds out. Only for the story to cut back to Kelsey meeting 2 more kids at his new school. It is definitely an interesting story because while Kelsey did get springlock, he ended up being fine. So what really happened? Some think that Kelsey is a ghost, some think that he's supposed to be the one you should not have killed, but no matter what, we all feel like there's a high possibility that Kelsey was a springlock victim, or you should have been, but we don't know how and we don't know when, but I mean it's still a definite possibility, which makes it a mystery. Not really an impactful one though, so in at 8 it goes. In at 7, Henry Emily. Now this is certainly an interesting case because seemingly Henry has died multiple ways across FNAF canons, with his first apparent death being in FNAF World at the hands of Baby. His death in the novels seems to have happened before the Silver Eye starts, and then he dies in FNAF 6 along with everything else. But could one of these deaths involve a springlock failure or something having to do with springlocks? I mean, maybe Afton offed Henry in one of these realities, finally actually, you know, took care of his worst enemy, or maybe Baby has some springlock mechanisms that's inside of her that she used to kill Henry. I mean, hell, maybe Henry just climbed into the wrong suit at the wrong time, or maybe the right suit at the right time for him. It's a question that we don't really pay attention to because, I mean, Henry's death doesn't mean much to the story, unfortunately. I mean, it's true, it doesn't. Henry dying doesn't really mean much overall for the FNAF lore, okay? We didn't even know that he was alive until FNAF 6, for God's sakes. So maybe for irony's sake, Scott had him bite the dust in a quicker way rather than just burning him alive. And at 6, Phone Guy. Phone Guy's death is one of the most mysterious deaths of all time, okay? We hear him die in FNAF 1 on night 4 with the sounds of multiple animatronics banging at his doors, but we never really get an explanation as to what happens to him. We know that he dies, but other than that, it's all speculation. One of of the theories is that the animatronics got him and shoved him into a suit, resulting in a painful death, especially since at this point the springlock suits were either still in operation or hadn't been totally removed. The actual timeline of events for the springlock suits is a little messy since we don't really have the exact years for the things getting scrapped, yet it's still possible that Phone Guy was shoved into one, or maybe he tried to use it to hide. After all, maybe Phone Guy is secretly William Afton and Scott just doesn't want us to know that yet or something, and what we hear could just be the FNAF 3 cutscene. I mean, I doubt it, but it would be absolutely hilarious if he ended up pulling that on us, okay? And for all those saying that Phone Guy can't be Afton because Afton is British or whatever, so is Tom Holland, okay? It's called acting. You can fake an accent, especially if you're a serial killer who's trying to evade everything, you know? Kinda, yeah, it's a thing. Halfway through into number 5, the logbook. Some believe that there are two spirits possessing the security survival logbook actual book that we can actually buy. One of them being Golden Freddy and the other one being Crying Child. But I believe that these altered texts aren't actually another spirit, since it wouldn't really make much sense for two spirits to communicate in different ways, but then also be a part of the same suit and then the same book, because like, what? I mean, one uses faded text and the other one alters what is already in the book, which seems to be like way more difficult than just making faded text. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're hallucinations that we're seeing from Mike's perspective and reading the book, but most believe that the other spirit is Golden Freddy, and then there's Cassidy and Crying Child in the book. I mean, like, why? Because they also believe they share the same animatronic, which also doesn't make sense. More on that later though. In it for Crying Child. Some people believe that the one possessing the Golden Freddy animatronic is Crying Child. This is mostly based on the It's Me hallucinations from FNAF 1 and the reveal that his older brother has been our player character over the first 6 games of the series, excluding FNAF 4. So why would people believe this? Well, because it would explain the line of It's Me. I literally just explained it. Why are you asking me that question? Since if we do play as Michael Afton in the first game, It's Me could just end up being Crying Child trying to communicate to his older brother who he is. It could also explain the constant use of the phrase It's Me in the security logbook, since some also believe it to be possessed by the spirit of Golden Freddy, like I just said, or the two spirits inside the book are two spirits inside Golden Freddy, which again makes no sense to me, but still. Although there is one hole I can think of in this theory is if you're trying to be like, hey bro, it's me, it's your little brother. Why would you then kill your big brother? I don't really know. I don't have a big brother, so maybe I don't understand. And I mean, like, Michael kind of did cause him to die, but I would get that. For the animatronic Josh shouldn't have crushed me, so who knows? Getting close to the end into number 3, first animatronics. We always figured that the FNAF 1 animatronics were the first ones made after the Springlock versions of Freddy and Bonnie, but that was always an assumption. But then Fast Facts comes in with the truth bombs and drops us some knowledge right at the president's feet. One of the Fast Facts states, quote, some of the first animatronics built by William Afton featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them, which means that, strangely enough, the Funtime animatronics are the first ones made, or at least some of the first ones, and I'm guessing after the Springlock suits, which does make certain things more confusing, but at least we know which ones are the closest to being made first without having to speculate. I mean, like, it doesn't mean that these were the first animatronics, only that they were made around the beginning of the company or around William's kind of like spiral, but it also shows us that William always had sinister intentions. So it's not because his kids died that he started killing people. Penultimately into number 2, Purple Guy. Before Sister Location's release, we could only speculate as to the name of the individual we knew as Purple Guy. Tons of names were made, with Dave being the most popular and the one that was generally accepted. Even still, however, the true Purple Guy name reveal of William Afton started in the FNAF novels, specifically the first novel in the series, The Silver Eyes. This was shown to those of us who didn't want to read the book that most people called cringe by Matt Pat in his theory on the subject, but the response was really, like, oh man. A decent amount of people were glad that we at least had some form of canon name for the character, even if it wasn't going to be in the games. But others were upset because Matt had used the books for his theories, which don't share the same continuity. But like, it's the closest we were gonna get. His theory, however, was actually confirmed to be true during the Sister Location starting scene where we first hear Afton speak, talking about Baby's various features, which is also how we found out that she has more to her than meets the color changing after getting possessed eye, because, you know, I mentioned it before. Why'd you skip that number? Like, what? Don't do that. That's weird. Finally, in at number 1, Golden Freddy's name. Since the beginning of FNAF, we had been wondering about the mysterious and seemingly supernatural Golden Freddy, the entity able to travel through solid doors and walls, who gave us hallucinations and crashed our game when they got to us. Who was this mysterious being? Over the years, we got a few names, most notably with the gravestone ending in FNAF 6, but even with that, Golden Freddy's name always eluded us. And if they are the one you should not have killed, or if they aren't, the name wasn't given to us in Ultimate Custom Night either, only an alias. But alas, we were saved when the FNAF Survival Logbook came out, where we were jumping through more hoops than dogs at a dog show, or dolphins at SeaWorld when they just want food. We uncovered the name Cassidy, thanks to wrong numbers on various pages becoming coordinates in the word search. It was a lot for a name reveal that honestly didn't mean much to the series, since the name Cassidy only appears in one other place, that being the FNAF novel The Fourth Closet, and the character is of little consequence. But if I didn't put this at number 1, I'm sure plenty of you would have gotten mad, so there you go. And at 10, Burn Trap. Is Burn Trap dead or alive? That's actually a good question in this case, since I don't know if Afton is alive inside the Burn Trap suit or not. He was alive in the Spring Trap and Scrap Trap suits, as we learned from the man in room 1280, because he was possessed by the one you should not have killed. But did he finally get put down after the FNAF 6 fire, or is he still kicking? His body is still present inside the Burn Trap suit, or at least it partially is, so like what's the consensus here? I don't know. The existence of Glitch Trap seems to imply that he's dead in the suit, but Ultimate Custom Night suggests that the one you should not have killed is still possessing him, which would be what he sees in the recharge station, which would mean that he's still alive, not because of the recharge station, but because the one you should not have killed would still be possessing him, which they would only do if he was still alive. Since, if we're being honest, the only reason Afton is possessed is so that he can't suffer, so being possessed after he's dead isn't really gonna do anything. And the one you should not have killed would not be controlling Burn Trap to take over Freddy and turn things evil. It goes against what we know about the character, so what's the deal here? I don't know. And at 9, relationship. Gregory, our player character in the game, is certainly a mysterious kid, and Vanessa, the night security guard who's also Vanny, is just as confusing, but at least we know more about her story, being our player character from FNAF VR. But what the most mysterious thing about this game is the relationship between Gregory and Vanessa. Like, what the absolute living hell is up with these two? Vanessa spends the whole game trying to lock Gregory in the security room, and then Vanny, her other personality, comes to try to kill us, and she actually ends up doing it in the worst ending. But then, after curing her in the Princess Quest ending, we don't even ask questions, we just go and get ice cream with her on a hill. Like what? MatPat seems to have solved this one though, saying that Gregory is following Vanessa in order to make sure that nobody gets too close to the truth about Glitch Trap possessing her, but then he also admits that there are some holes to this theory. But if I'm honest, this is the first time I've agreed with MatPat in a while. He was mostly talking about like smaller things, such as endoskeletons or the main character of Princess Quest, and those I didn't agree with, but this is a good explanation as to why Gregory is protective over Vanessa. It also explains why he's such a criminal. He's just a bad robot person. And it ain't Glitch Trap. Honestly, again, I'm still confused as to how Glitch Trap and Burn Trap could exist at the same time. Like, yes, we've seen people pour their agony into things while remaining alive before. Henry and the Ella doll from the novels and Fazbear Frights, for instance. However, nothing like that has seemed to happen in the games. And as many of you are adamant to make clear, the games and books are in different universes. But still going by my rules of they help clarify things that are possible in the other universe, William was seemingly not in enough agony to pass it on to something like a hard drive that would then get scanned unless he died, since the one you should not have killed was holding onto his soul. And unless some sicko ended up moving his body to a new animatronic endo after it was destroyed, there should be no way that this guy should still be able to be kicking, and yet also have a sentient code version of himself running around in Vanny's head. Okay, given the rules that have been established in this universe, that's seemingly impossible. I mean, I'll look into it more and maybe have a theory about it tomorrow, but I don't know. And at 7, Arcade Conspiracy. The Arcade Conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find where we learn that something else seems to be going on in the Pizzaplex. Of course, because you know, it can't just be one story. Quote from the Arcade Conspiracy note, exit interview. They are working together, the arcades. They are hiding something, the glitches. Glitch them all at the same time. Then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I am so close. Just one more night, please. I can save the princess. Now, it's clear that this seems to be referring to the Princess Quest games, however, it doesn't seem like we have to glitch those in order to win them. We just need to beat them in order from 1 to 3, and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this actually mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater, the Chica's Feeding Frenzy, which won't turn off even when unplugged, that you're supposed to be able to find in the bakery, and the Monty Golf A Arcade that, according to its duffel bag, shouldn't be in the Mini Golf A area, but is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and Monty's golf game, which I got a 14 as my lowest or technically highest score when the best you can do is 13, so. Chica's Feeding Frenzy isn't an arcade cabinet. It's not in the game yet. You can only access it using a mod that lets you cheat it in from the main menu. So I feel like this was an intentional feature that was left on the cutting room floor, but it's still a mystery. And at 6, what's next? One of the biggest mysteries from this game and any FNAF game really is what comes next. But with this game more so than any other FNAF game because, well, anything can happen now. We can go anywhere and do anything. I think more will be revealed with the new Fazbear Frights series when it gets started, called Tales from the Pizzaplex, but until the first one releases on July 19th, we got nothing. The Blob could be the next major villain, or Vanny could be, and hell, even after Matt Pat pointed out what could really be going on now, even Gregory could be the next major villain. Like, I always knew the kid was evil, but still, oh well. We can move on to a new location, we can go back to an old one, or we can see the aftermath of the Pizzaplex cave-in under Roxy's Raceway. We can go back to the normal FNAF formula, or maybe move on to more story-based games like this one. The series can go literally anywhere, especially with someone new taking over. But I felt that it was cheaty to put this at number 1, so I'm gonna put it at number 6. Halfway through into number 5, Mrs. Afton. We know little about Mrs. Afton. We don't even really know if there was a Mrs. Afton. We know that William probably had to have some form of woman in his life, assuming his kids are biological and not adopted or kidnapped. But we also have no idea who this woman was, or if she's currently alive. If she died, or maybe she just divorced William, or left him. There have been so many rumors or ideas that were started by different FNAF parody songs and animations involving car accidents and the missus walking in on whatever William was doing, but none of these have ever been confirmed, so treating them as fact is a major mistake, okay? There's also no official name yet for Mrs. Afton. Some people call her Clara because of The Immortal and the Restless, the soap opera from Sister Location, since there was a vampire in purple that people compared to William, which for some reason meant that even though William's name's not Vlad, that Clara was 100% the name of his wife, which, I mean, isn't true, okay? Because, like, Clara Afton doesn't seem to exist, at least yet. And some, including myself, thought that Vanessa from Security Breach could have been revealed to be Mrs. Afton, but doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Or like maybe at least she could have been the baby mama, but again, that's not happening. And at 4, Client 46. Some believe Gregory to be the mysterious Client 46, able to be found in the retro CDs available at the end of Security Breach using Roxy's eyes. However, others suggest that perhaps Client 46 is Vanny, since Vanny is an alternate persona of Vanessa, and Vanessa is the only other client with retro CDs in the game. Client 46 doesn't talk, at least from what we can hear, but is adept at hacking, something we at least before the game came out associated with Vanny. But if Gregory is a robot, or if he's just a genius, the hacking thing can be easily explained. And Vanessa is asked about making her costume, whereas Client 46 is seen talking to someone in a bunny costume, or at very least the costume. And if that was Vanny, why would she be talking to her costume? It just seems weird. The cameras, when they talk though, are also glitching, indicating that the bunny is actually Vanny. There is also the fact that Vanessa leaves in disc 12 or so, and 46 doesn't leave until the end of disc 16. I still think that it's Gregory, but hey, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, right? Unless they share it on a YouTube video, according to some of the comments I've been seeing. But again, it's a mystery that we don't have an answer for. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, the bite of 87. I'm gonna be straight with you. We still don't know who caused the bite of 87, or in reality, who the bite of 87 was on. We have theories. Like, we have a theory that Mangle, Freddy, or Chica bit Jeremy, but theories do not equal fact. This incident has been on our minds since the first game, and we haven't been able to come up with a definitive confirmed answer. If you ask me, that's almost certainly a mystery. It's been 8 years and we still haven't gotten a direct answer. And if anything, we've gotten conflicting answers. We thought it was Mangle because she goes for the top of the head, but then the handprint on Freddy's face seems to indicate that it was him, and then Ultimate Custom Night caused Toy Chica to say, "Where's my beak?" lodged in your forehead, of course, which makes it seem like it was her. We have no real answer despite what you're going to tell me in the comments. That's right, I know that you're all angrily commenting about how it's confirmed canon, but it's not. It's really not. Unless Scott clearly says Mangle caused the bite and the bite was Jeremy, all we have is theories, which means that this is still an unsolved mystery. And ultimately, into number 2, Afton's fate. The true ending of Security Breach is seemingly one of the scariest parts of the game for me. me, because it contains a load of things that scare me when it comes to this series' lore. One of them being plenty of unanswered questions and unsolved mysteries along with vague endings. After making your way into Burntrap's area, Freddy will be taken over by Afton's newest form. But then it's up to Gregory to defeat him by using 3 monitors and buttons to burn him, one of the lamest boss battles in history. Players will also need to avoid the animatronic enemies that come for Gregory that aren't Burntrap, and then you'll have to use the doors to temporarily lock them out, or you'll have to get inside Freddy and then scare Roxy away. When Springtrap is finally burnt for the last time, the Blob, which was that whole tentacle monster Rule 34 kind of thing, will attack him, making sure that he doesn't get free. Hopefully. Freddy and Gregory will then be shown escaping and sitting on a hill together. However, if the Blob actually does kill William, that's a whole other question, okay? There are death animations in the game files, however, they aren't used in the ending, so we can't count them as canon. Plus, the whole I always come back thing should have ended with this game from what we understood about the series, but he came back nonetheless, so even logical conclusions aren't gonna help us here. God, just please, let William finally be dead, for the love of everything. Please. I think that unfortunately Afton being resurrected or returning in some form or another is inevitable. Like, I don't get why. Like, at this point we can move on from this killer and have a whole new one, but a load of people seem to think that we need Afton back. And finally, in at number 1, Origins. This is number 1 because I know for a fact that it's going to make plenty of FNAF fans mad. However, we don't know why William Afton started killing. He was planning on killing before his children died, since every single one of his kids died due to his desire to kill others. Elizabeth died because he built the baby murder bot along with the other Funtime murder bots. Crying Child died because he was bit by superpowered Fredbear, and Michael died because he was trying to right his father's wrongs and got burnt alive trying to fix everything. And because his kids died was our only good lead, we have nothing now. In the books, he learns about Remnant and then wants to harness it to become immortal, but he learns this after starting his killing spree. We've made multiple videos about possible William Afton origins, a few of them being wild and crazy like a demon deal gone wrong, and some are more character focused like maybe his wife leaving or dying caused a psychotic break, but all are still equally possible since there isn't much evidence for any theory. They're all just speculation. Because after all, even if it did have evidence, it would just be theories. Just FNAF theories. And yes, that's a reference to MatPat. Every time I say that, people get confused for some reason, okay? I'm referencing MatPat there because he says it's just a theory, a game theory, at the end of every game theory episode, okay? I'm not stealing it from him. I'm not doing anything shady. It's a reference. Everyone knows what I'm doing, okay? So just chill. And then 10 tally marks. The security logbook has had a load of little things that we don't quite understand. One of which is the various tally marks we can find throughout the book. 5 on page 9, 10 on page 19, 14 on page 31, 5 on page 36, and another 5 on page 100. Nobody has really been able to determine what these are meant to mean. The word search doesn't have 100 spaces, alphanumeric ciphers only yield a group of letters, not a word, and nowhere else in the logbook is there something that relates to them. They're a seemingly totally arbitrary thing that has no impact on the story. But they have to mean something, right? They aren't just there for no reason. There has to be some sort of answer or code. But nobody has been able to find anything concrete yet as far as I could tell. If this isn't the case, please let me know in the comments, because like, I can't find that. No, okay? There is just no explanation. The only thing I can think of is that maybe it represents the amount of victims William took, since they seem to appear with the appearance of a character from a new game. The first 5 are when we're talking about a new animatronic. The next 10 are at the first appearance of Balloon Boy. Others appear around the puppet next. Or maybe they're just the amount of new victims. And at 9, what do you remember? There seems to be something else going on in this book as well. Some people seem to think that there's a spirit possessing it and it's trying to reveal Golden Freddy's name. But it's also talking to us about what we remember. So what could we have forgotten? What is this thing that the book wants us to remember from our past? Well, I think I could have an answer to that in all honesty. Check out the top 10 reasons FNAF Crying Child is Michael Afton for that info. But nevertheless, it's still a confusing line. It asks us multiple more things like was our favorite ride the carousel, and was our favorite toy a purple plastic telephone, but why does it want us to remember these things? What does whatever it is want from us? Is it a spirit, or is it just us hallucinating? In a date with Chica. The very last page of the logbook, what would have been page 112, has a faded picture of some form of withered Chica on it. It seems not as run down, since there is still an arm cage for the upper arm and the left arm still has a forearm, but there is no explanation as to why this is there, and why it's the last thing we see. Aside from coupons and the cover, we only see Chica 7 times in the whole book, whereas someone like Foxy or Freddy we see many more times. So why does this image have to be the capstone of the book. Why is it so important that this is the last thing we see? As per usual with this series, it's unclear. I put the image into Photoshop to see if there was anything I could find that was going to help, like hidden messages, maybe some sort of review like Scott had hidden within other game trailers and stuff. But no, I just got a slightly clearer picture of the withered Chica. Didn't really help. And it's 7 inconsistencies. This book blew some things we thought we knew up, and confirmed some other things. But what the book is really good at doing is blowing up the things we thought we knew, but then blowing up the things we thought we knew again because of the book. For example, the identity of Michael Afton. Thanks to the book, we thought it was the crying child, but then thanks to the book again, we thought it was the older brother because he chews a lot of gum. I still think that it's both, therefore it's not an inconsistency to me, but for everyone who doesn't believe me, it's confusing. Plus, there's a matter of changing text. Why are some phrases switched with others for some random reason? Are they hallucinations or is it a spirit? How are we supposed to know? We don't! And that's the issue! And at 6, what are we missing? The logbook that I'm probably going to end up calling the lore book at some point accidentally in this video has a load of things hidden in so many places. But that to me makes me think that there has to be something that we've missed. With the amount of bullshit we've been seeing with this book, there has to be something we've glossed over or ignored for the sake of the bigger picture that totally fixes our understanding of this book. I've looked at this thing upside down, backwards, sideways, and nothing caught my eye. I went over every inch of this thing with a black light. I literally purchased a FNAF book for the sole purpose of trying to figure out what was going on with it. And nothing. To be fair, I got it after Cassidy's name had already been revealed, but there is so much here that we just don't know or understand. There has to be something we're missing, there has to be, but we don't know what we don't know. Halfway through in at number 5, how baby works. Within the same blueprints that we get during the insanity ending that allowed us to figure out what Lefty's purpose was, we also get to see baby's blueprints. We can see that she's 7 foot 2 inches tall, has an air hose attachment on her right hand, her song databank is where her brain would be, and that she has an emergency stop on the leg, most likely installed after the Elizabeth incident. However, in this blueprint we can also see the wireframe of a child huddled into a ball. This wouldn't really be noticeable though if we hadn't seen Funtime Freddy's blueprint, where we learn that he has a containment chamber and another child inside of him. This was actually all hinted at during the opening scene of Sister Location, where Afton lists off the various features of the baby animatronic, saying she can dance, she can sing, she's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips, she can take song requests, she can even dispense ice cream. Before being replied to with all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton, which alluded to there being more than meets the eye, and while we do see it in that game, at least this gives us more of an explanation. And at 4, Scrap Trap's identity. When FNAF 6 came out, the Mike Trap versus Will Trap debate was louder than it ever had been before, thanks to the introduction of Scrap Trap, who some fans believed to be a new character, which only got worse when both versions of the character were featured in Ultimate Custom Night. But this had already been sorted when Scott told everyone that MatPat's conclusion to the debate, where MatPat concluded that William was Springtrap, was indeed correct. And in Ultimate Custom Night, Scrap Trap says, "I always come back," which is William's signature line, because no matter how hard we try, this man won't die. I mean, he has now, but like, still. It's also confirmed in the animatronics inventory section for Ultimate Custom Night in the Freddy Files Updated Edition, where Scrap Trap is referred to as Scrap Trap / William Afton. You can't get any more straightforward than that. And while yes, Springtrap doesn't have the / William Afton, Scott already confirmed that he was William in the Reddit / Steam post that I mentioned before. Boom! You looking for this? Truth bombs! Getting close to the end in number 3, the one you should not have killed. The one you should not have killed is the main, I guess, antagonist of Ultimate Custom Night. This character, who most believe to be Cassidy, is the one causing this whole situation, trapping William in his own mind while keeping him alive in order to torture him for his crimes. And while this may still be Cassidy, okay, I think it's crying child. I have a whole theory with all of my evidence as to why, so go check that out if you're interested. But the gist of it is, crying child was close to his dad when he died, not close to the Golden Freddy animatronic, and Cassidy was inside the Golden Freddy animatronic. So yeah, that makes more sense. But no matter who it is, the one you should not have killed can't actually be Golden Freddy. Because like, while the evidence certainly seems to point us in that direction, from what we know now, William isn't in hell or in purgatory for the first game, but he's rather trapped trapped in his own body, thanks to the man in room 1280 showing us that William can't die from the Fazbear Frights Book 5 bunny call. He's also, you know, still having a body in burn trap come security breach, so yeah, he wasn't in hell, unfortunately. I would have really liked for him to be in hell, because then I wouldn't have to deal with his scrawny burnt ass, but oh well. There is one character that's possessed multiple things, but nobody has possessed two animatronics at the same time, okay? And in fact, in Bunny Call, William had to die for Andrew to be able to move on to the Stitch Wraith. Plus, I mean, again, nobody has really possessed two things aside from William in Security Breach, and that's only because one of them was like a code brain version of him. Oh god, why is this series the way it is? But ultimately, in at number 2, Cassidy. Since the beginning of FNAF, we have been wondering about the mysterious and seemingly supernatural Golden Freddy, the entity able to travel through solid doors and walls, who gave us hallucinations and crashed our game when they got to us, okay? But who was this mysterious being? Over the years, we've gotten a few names, most notably with the gravestone ending in FNAF 6, but even with that, Golden Freddy's names always eluded us, or Golden Freddy's name has always eluded us. And if they are the one you should not have killed, or if they aren't, the name wasn't given to us in Ultimate Custom Night either, okay? Only an alias. But alas, we were finally saved when the FNAF Survival Logbook came out, where after jumping through more hoops than dogs at a dog show or dolphins at SeaWorld when they just want food, we uncovered the name Cassidy. Thanks to wrong numbers on various pages becoming coordinates in the goddamn word search, it was a lot for a name reveal that honestly doesn't really mean much to the series, since the name Cassidy only appears in one other place, that place being the novel The Fourth Closet, and then a scrapped script that Scott said didn't make sense because the characters didn't matter. So yeah, Cassidy doesn't matter. I am so sorry. Blame Amanda. And finally, in at number 1, the 2-eye theory. The 2-eye theory states that in the FNAF 3 bad ending, there are 2 eyes lit up in the head in the back, which we assume is Golden Freddy, to show that there are 2 souls inside the animatronic. This isn't true, and I'm gonna tell you why, okay? Otherwise this would be a pretty short number. Firstly, it would be more difficult to tell that it was an animatronic head if only 1 eye was lit up, since, you know, all we see of this animatronic are the eyes, and it's just a reflection of the first light, since it's so dark back there, okay? Notice how Freddy also has light coming out of his other eye. Secondly, Crying Child hadn't been introduced into the series yet, not coming until the next game. That wasn't even supposed to happen until the community was disappointed with Springtrap's jump scare. And you know, this was supposed to be like the end of the series. This was supposed to put the series to bed. That's why we released the souls in the Happiest Day minigame. So, notice that only one person also wears the Golden Freddy mask in that minigame. And according to the official Freddy Files Updated Edition book, quote, "You'll see an image of broken animatronic heads, each with a lit eye," meaning that Golden Freddy in the back only has 1 eye lit. Alright? It's just how light works. That's how it goes. That are the fundamentals of light. It goes in every direction. That's why we see the other eye. And considering how that's the official guidebook to the series, basically the Bible of FNAF, we kinda gotta, you know, take it as law. And a 10th phone guy. While we do hear Golden Freddy's jump scare at the end of the phone recording on night 4 of FNAF 1, we also hear Freddy's music playing, the March of the Toreador that's slowed down, implying that phone guy actually ended up running out of power. It is possible that all the animatronics were present at the time of phone guy's death, and that Freddy therefore also took part in the ending of the phone guy, but otherwise I would suggest that Golden Freddy at least didn't work alone, as Freddy was at least there too, okay? So I mean, it would make sense 2 Freddys might team up to take down phone guy together, maybe sharing their victory over him because they're kind of brothers in a weird sense. But this is also supported by the stuttering and murmuring we hear on the night 5 phone call, because that sounds an awful lot like auditory hallucinations that Golden Freddy causes us to experience throughout these nights. Come on, if anyone is going to kill the phone guy, it's probably going to be Golden Freddy. And at 9, it's me. There are only 2 people who are really able to see this Easter egg to my knowledge, and it involves getting the Curse of Dreadbear DLC and completing a game and then being taken to the victory screen. There you'll find 3 posters reminiscent of ones from the Alleyway and Pizzeria Simulator. However, this is where the ability to unlock this Easter egg is actually determined, okay? To be able to do this, you need 3 clown posters. All 3 of them need to be clowns, which is incredibly rare, and I mean like incredibly rare. Plus, then you need to hit them all with darts, which you only get 4 of. And if you miss 2 of them, you're boned, okay? I've looked for this Easter egg for hours on both my personal live streams and in one of our FNAF live streams here, I think. I'm pretty sure that was the thing. Since I wanted to find this myself, okay, I wanted to so badly, but I didn't, okay? Since if you manage to actually get this, the barn changes to seemingly a blacklight version where the victory banner changes to read "It's me," and everything starts glowing because of the blacklight, okay? YouTuber's Johnny Blocks, who follows me on Instagram and Twitter. What's up, Johnny? How you doing? And apparently Daco, who has no idea who I am, are the only two to have actually gotten this Easter egg from what I've seen and what I've been told in the comments. And not even MapHat was able to get this, and Eddie VR wasn't really trying, and neither were any of the other boys. But I mean, like, some think that this is Golden Freddy still having a hold over the FNAF world, or in this game, or wherever Glitch Trapper William is, because, you know, Golden Freddy, people think that one that you should not have killed. You know the deal, okay? I don't know. At first I thought it was a lie, but Johnny's cool, so I believe him now. And it ate Yendo. Yendo might initially appear to just be the endoskeleton of Funtime Freddy, but it is actually more likely that he is the endoskeleton of another version of Freddy that's just not suited up. As Yendo has a right hand, where normally Funtime Freddy would just have Bonbon attached. I mean he can remove it and actually put a hand on, but why would Funtime Freddy be without Bonbon? Many believe that the name Yendo, which seems to be a combination of yellow and endo, does allude to him being the endoskeleton of a golden variation of Funtime Freddy, or just maybe the original Golden Freddy endoskeleton that was removed prior to the first and second game. However, I'm pretty sure in the timeline sister location takes place after those, so I doubt it. And at 7, Fredbear is Golden Freddy. One theory that I've seen plenty of times, and I'm pretty sure was mostly at the start of the FNAF 4's release, is the theory that Golden Freddy and the Fredbear animatronic are the same animatronic, suggesting that the reason Golden Freddy is all limp in the original FNAF and FNAF 2 are because his endoskeleton was removed after Crying Child's bite in 1983, and then that's why the suit has to teleport around and cause hallucinations, because it can't actually move. This would also probably mean that Crying Child was the one in the Golden Freddy suit. However, this seems to not be the case, since, you know, the characters are separate in Ultimate Custom Night, and just the coloring and the size. Since Golden Freddy is much smaller than Fredbear would have been, since, you know, Fredbear would have to accommodate a human as well as the endoskeleton part, since it was a Springlock suit, and Golden Freddy just wouldn't, since he would just be an animatronic and not a Springlock. However, with Springtrap's design and Scrap Baby and Normal Baby, along with Scrap Trap and Springtrap being present in Ultimate Custom Night, those defenses for this are fairly shot, but considering how the Springlock suits weren't decommissioned until at least after 1985, after the Missing Children's incident, since Afton uses that to kill kids, it is unlikely that this was the case, especially considering how, you know, Afton has literally no empathy and wouldn't care that his kid died. And at 6, Possession Rules. Not Possession Rules, the rules of Possession. Possession in the FNAF universe is very interesting, however it's not something that we fully understand yet. There are a couple of things we know, like how agony is one of the most powerful emotions that stretches out further from the body than any other emotion, but we don't really know if agony, grabbing hold of something, what we call possession, are really the same thing. We don't know if when you die it's your remaining agony, or if it's supposed to be your spirit that is guided through agony, and we also don't really know any other rules, if there are any, okay? You might need to be close to the thing that you're possessing, assuming that possession and agony are actually the same thing, because I mean, like, it can only reach out so far, right? But if it's not, then I don't know what the rules are. Okay, we know very little about possession in the FNAF universe, and it's probably going to stay that way, because I mean, if we knew the rules, it would mean that the series would have to be confined to those rules. But by never establishing a set of restrictions, the games can do whatever they want, and we can't really question it, since they never really said it couldn't happen. Well done, Scott. Thanks! I'm not mad. Halfway through at number 5, Crying Child. Okay, now this one is certainly going to get at least a little controversial, but there is no way that I could do this list without mentioning one of the greatest debates of my Instagram DMs ever. The amount of people who message me on Instagram not asking about literally anything else aside from the bite of 83 and how it had to have been the Springlocks kind of bothers me, and it does so to my core, okay? I say it every time that I brought it up, but it couldn't have been a Springlock failure. That being said though, if it is possible, that's kind of what this list is talking about, mysteries, who knows? The reason I don't think it was a Springlock failure is because the Fredbear suit was already in animatronic mode, meaning that no Springlocks would have had the chance to fail, since keeping in mind a Springlock failure refers to the Springlock mechanisms used to move the robotic parts failing, meaning that all the actual like endoskeleton bits snap back into where they should have been, and that's why if someone someone's inside, that's a bad thing, you know, because you don't want to really be sharing your bone bits with metal bits. And there also would have been no spring lock mechanisms inside the mouth because there's no robotic bits between the jaws. But again, that's the whole thing. The jaw just moves up and down. But still, it's a possibility since logic and physics doesn't really seem to apply to the FNAF world, which is made evident by those goddamn doors from FNAF 1. Even if they're supposed to be electromagnets, they would only open with power. I'm just saying, okay? Maybe Scott intended it to be a spring lock failure, but he just showed it in literally the worst way possible. I don't know. In at 4, the Bite of 87. The Bite of 87 is such an infamous incident that I can already hear people groaning in the comments. However, what if the victim of the Bite of 87, whoever that was, is actually a victim of a spring lock failure? It could make sense since the animatronics had no real harmful tendencies before this, so a spring lock failure is a reasonable assumption as to why someone got a frontal lobe removed. And a spring lock failure would definitely provide enough power to do that since, you know, the spring locks themselves would snap with a ferocious velocity and would probably circumvent the whole needing more power to actually crush a skull thing. And if it was Jeremy, it would explain why the animatronics ended up getting suspended, because now one of their own employees was bit and then they had to promote him and then fork over some extra cash to make sure that he didn't sue. So yeah, was the Bite of 87 a spring lock failure? Maybe. And was it the moment that caused the spring lock suits to be retired? I don't know. Okay, it also could have been the FNAF 4 bite. But considering the FNAF 3 phone calls, it actually seems to be this bite though, since in FNAF 2 we hear about someone using one of the yellow suits and not mentioning the spring locks until FNAF 3, meaning that they were probably still in use normally come 1985, and Crying Child died in 1983, so it was probably the Bite of 87 that got them suspended, so there you go. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Golden Fredbear. One theory I've seen plenty of times, and I'm pretty sure was mostly the start of FNAF 4 theory, was that Golden Freddy and Fredbear are the same animatronic, suggesting that the reason Golden Freddy is all limp in the original FNAF and FNAF 2 is because his endoskeleton was removed after Crying Child's bite in 1983, and that's why the suit has to teleport around and cause hallucinations, because it can't actually move. This would also probably mean that Crying Child was the one in the Golden Freddy suit. However, we know that this isn't true based on the characters being separate in Ultimate Custom Night and not just coloring and size, since Golden Freddy is much smaller than Fredbear would have been, since, you know, Fredbear would have to accommodate a human and Golden Freddy wouldn't, since he would just be an animatronic and not a spring-lock suit. But honestly, at this point, the actual design doesn't really seem to matter, since Springtrap went to Scrap Trap and then to Burn Trap, so honestly, it's all up in the air. However, I have yet to see proper substantial evidence of this being the case, and I don't think that they would have removed the endoskeleton before that. But ultimately, in number 2, Shadow Animatronics. One of the oldest theories is that the Shadow Animatronics are the first Springlock victims, and this comes to us after the FNAF 3 phone guide dialogue that mentioned multiple and simultaneous Springlock failures, which some interpreted as multiple Springlock suits failing at once, since the term Springlock in this situation is being used to describe the suit as a whole and not the actual individual mechanisms that make up the suit. So, the line of multiple and simultaneous Springlock failures could mean multiple of the Springlocks inside the suit failing at the same time, or just multiple suits failing. This led some to theorize that previous employees were killed in the Springlock suit, which is where the Shadow Animatronics come from. This is supported by the fact that these are both shadows of Freddy and Bonnie, the two animatronics that have Springlock versions. I mean, there are some holes in this theory, because, you know, one of them looks like Toy Bonnie, and Toy Bonnie's not a Springlock suit, but there is potential that this is the case, because again, designs, consistency doesn't really seem to matter anymore. And finally, in at number 1, Double Trouble. Could William have suffered a Springlock failure before getting trapped in the Springlock Bonnie suit that we see in FNAF 3? It is possible, okay, and it certainly appears like this could be the case in the FNAF novels. Well, it is the case in the FNAF novels, but because of that, it could be the case in the games. Since William in the books is described to have scars that are consistent with a Springlock failure before actually becoming Springtrap in the books. So, could it have happened in the games? Could William have been the reason that the Springlock suits were actually retired? Since we do hear of the unfortunate incident at a sister location, so is that unfortunate incident instead William? There are plenty of people that it could be, but William having to deal with it would certainly get them put out of commission, because, you know, he's kind of up there, and I mean, he doesn't really seem to care about anyone else, so if they failed on them, why would he retire them? But with William continuing to use the suit and putting it on after, you know, when like the room was wet in FNAF 3, this could be unlikely unless he just doesn't have the capacity for trauma, but it's still possible either way, okay? So since this list is about mysteries, I feel like this deserves to be on it. And you know what? Be the capstone.